My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage, because right in front of me, on our driveway, my disabled daughter Lily was lying on the concrete, crying in pain, clutching the shattered pieces of her prosthetic leg. And the man standing over her, the HOA vice president, Mark, he wasn't apologizing. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't even worried. He just smirked and said, maybe she shouldn't leave her junk lying around. HOA rules are HOA rules. He broke her prosthetic leg on purpose. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I could do. He didn't know he had just crossed the police chief of this entire district. And that mistake was going to cost him everything. Before we start, tell me something. Which city are you watching this video from? Comment the name of your city below. I love seeing how far these stories reach across the USA. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel before we begin. Trust me, you do not want to miss stories like this. Alright, let's start exactly where everything went wrong. My name is Daniel Brooks. Most people in our community know me as a calm, easygoing dad, but very few know my real identity, the police chief of our county. My daughter Lily is 11 years old, born with a congenital limb issue. She uses a custom prosthetic leg, a leg that took months of fitting, a leg she was finally confident walking with, a leg that gave her the chance to play, run, and smile like any other kid. But the HOA in our neighborhood, they treat rules like religion, especially Mark, the vice president. A man who believes empathy is a weakness and power is everything. For months, he had been sending us warnings, petty violations, harassing notes, but I ignored them. I didn't want drama. I just wanted peace for my family. But peace ended the moment he touched my daughter. The moment he pulled her prosthetic leg off and slammed it against the pavement like trash. That was the moment a father died and a police chief woke up. Lily's scream tore through the neighborhood like a blade. It wasn't just a cry of pain, it was fear, shock, betrayal. I sprinted toward her, my heart pounding, my vision narrowing as if the entire world had collapsed into one horrifying scene. My little girl on the ground, her prosthetic leg lying beside her in 2 snapped pieces, and Mark standing over her with folded arms, wearing that cold, arrogant grin. "What did you do?" I shouted, sliding to the ground beside Lily and pulling her into my arms. Mark shrugged. As HOA vice president, it's my duty to enforce the rules. She left her equipment. He looked at the broken leg with disgust, blocking the sidewalk. That's a violation. I stared at him, stunned. You grabbed her? You laid hands on a child. She wasn't listening. His voice had no shame, no regret, nothing. Just entitlement. Lily sobbed into my chest. Dad, he yanked it. I fell. I tried to stand, but she winced, holding her knee. My blood boiled. I wanted to stand up and end this man's entire existence. But one thing held me back, my badge, my position, my responsibility. But he didn't know about any of that. Mark took a step closer. And since this is her second warning this month, the HOA will be issuing a fine. I snapped. You break my daughter's leg and you're talking about fines? He smirked. Maybe if you actually followed the rules. Mark. A calm but firm voice interrupted. His wife, Susan, rushed out from their porch, horrified. What are you doing? She's a child. You can't. Oh, please, Susan, he barked. You always take the side of strangers. She looked at Lily, then at me, and I saw guilt flooding her eyes. Daniel, I'm so sorry. I didn't know he... But Mark cut her off. Go inside. This is HOA business. I stood up slowly, gently setting Lily against my knees. You're done talking, I said quietly. Oh yeah, he mocked. What are you going to do? Call the cops on me? He laughed. The HOA owns this neighborhood, pal. We make the rules, not you. That was it. He didn't know. He had already called the cops on himself. Because I reached into my pocket and pulled out my wallet. Mark scoffed. What? You're going to pay your fine now, or... But then he saw it. My badge. My police chief badge. His smile dropped. His eyes widened. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. Why, you're law enforcement? He stuttered. No, I corrected. I'm the police chief of this entire district. His face drained of all color. I stepped closer, my voice low and cold. And you just assaulted a disabled minor. His hands shook. I didn't know, she... You ripped off her prosthetic leg, I said through clenched teeth. You caused physical injury, emotional trauma, destruction of medical equipment. And you did it with malicious intent. Susan gasped behind him. Oh my God, Mark, what did you do? But I wasn't done. I took a deep breath, picked up the broken prosthetic leg, and held it inches from his face. This isn't a toy. This isn't clutter. This is my daughter's life. And you destroyed it. He backed away, shaking his head. I didn't know she was disabled. I snapped. You see her every day. You've watched her walk with this leg. This wasn't ignorance. It was cruelty. He tried to speak, but words failed him. And that moment, that fear in his eyes, was only the beginning, because he still didn't know the full truth. I leaned in and whispered, You broke the wrong child's leg today, because you messed with the daughter of the one man in this entire county who can yendy your position, your record, your life as you know it. His knees nearly buckled. Lily tugged my sleeve gently. Dad, can we go home? It hurts. I lifted her carefully in my arms. Yeah, sweetheart, we're going home. But while walking away, I stopped and looked back at Mark one last time. This isn't over. Oh, and it wasn't. Not even close. Because the next 24 hours would expose secrets, lies, corruption, and a truth about Mark that would bring the entire HOA collapsing around him. The real twist? He wasn't acting alone. The entire board was involved, and I was about to bring every single one of them down. For the rest of the day, Lily stayed curled against me, flinching at even the softest movement. Her knee was bruised, her stump sore, and her confidence shattered. I carried her inside, laid her gently on the couch, and wrapped a blanket around her. She kept touching the empty space where her prosthetic leg should have been, a space she had fought so hard to overcome. Dad, she whispered, her voice trembling. What if I can't walk again? What if I fall at school? What if her breath hitched? What if people laugh at me? My chest tightened so painfully it was hard to breathe. No one is going to laugh at you, I said, brushing her hair back. And you will walk again. I promise you. She nodded, but the fear stayed in her eyes. I stepped into the hallway, grabbed my phone, and called the hospital orthotics department. They confirmed what I already feared. A full replacement prosthetic leg could take weeks. Fittings, adjustments, costs, and thanks to the specific customization Lily needed, it wouldn't be cheap. Not that money mattered to me, but the timing, it mattered to her. She had her school performance next week, a dance routine she practiced for months. She'd been counting down the days on her calendar. And Mark, that man, ripped everything away from her in seconds. My hands clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. Just then, my wife, Emily, rushed home after getting my frantic text. The moment she saw Lily, she broke down into tears. What happened? Oh my God, baby, are you okay? She knelt beside the couch, hugging Lily carefully. Lily tried to smile, but her lips quivered. Mom, he broke it. He broke my leg. Emily looked at me with a question in her eyes, one that was half plea, half fury. Who? I took a deep breath. Mark. Her expression changed instantly, her shock melting into anger, then disbelief. That monster? Why? What did Lily even do? Apparently, I said bitterly, her prosthetic leg was a sidewalk obstruction. Emily blinked, stunned. Then she whispered, He's going to pay for this. Oh, yes, I said quietly. He will. But revenge wasn't enough. It wasn't justice. I needed something bigger, something that would protect not just Lily, but every family in the neighborhood that had suffered under HOA tyranny. I opened my laptop and pulled up the resident complaint log. Over the past 2 years, the HOA had filed more than 75 complaints, all targeting families with children, disabled residents, elderly neighbors, or anyone they saw as inconvenient. Every single one had the same signature. Mark Peterson, HOA, Vice President. And every time a complaint resulted in a fine, guess who received a processing fee? The HOA board members. Not only was Mark a bully, he was profiting off abusing people. This wasn't negligence. It wasn't overzealous rule enforcement. It was corruption, and I was done letting them get away with it. I pulled up my badge again, not because I needed to see it, but because it reminded me of who I was. A father, a protector, a police chief, the kind of man who didn't stand by while kids were hurt. I dialed a number. Detective Harris. He answered immediately, his tone alert. "Chief, what's wrong?" "We have a situation," I said. "Child injury, property destruction, possible assault, and an HOA board that may be running an illegal profit scheme." On the other end, Harris whistled low. "That's a lot, sir. Who's the suspect?" "Mark Peterson." Pause. "You mean the HOA guy who once tried to fine a toddler for drawing with chalk on the sidewalk?" "That's him." "Yeah, he's got complaints stacked up. But hitting a disabled kid's prosthetic," his voice sharpened, "that's a new level of evil. We're going to investigate this properly," I said, and discreetly. "You want surveillance? Interviews? Bank records? All of it." "Understood. I'll start tonight." After hanging up, I walked back to the living room. Lily was asleep in Emily's arms, her face puffy from crying. Emily ran her fingers gently along Lily's hair. "She doesn't deserve this," she whispered. "She tries so hard. Every day. Why do people hate what they don't understand?" I sat beside them. "Because people like Mark think rules matter more than humanity." Emily looked at me. "Daniel, what are you going to do?" "Something I should have done a long time ago," I said quietly. "I'm going to take down the entire HOA board." Her eyes widened. "Is that allowed?" I smirked. "It is when the police chief leads the investigation." But before I could say another word, there was a sudden, violent knock at our door. 3 sharp bangs. Then silence. Emily stiffened. I stood up slowly, hand instinctively moving toward my holster. Another bang, louder, impatient. I opened the door. And there he was, Mark, standing on my porch, breathing heavily, his eyes wild, but his posture defensive. "W, we need to talk," he said, voice shaking. I didn't open the door fully. "What do you want?" He swallowed hard. "Look, man, earlier it was an accident. Your kid, she surprised me and—" "Don't lie to me," I said calmly. He froze. "I saw the video," I said. His eyes widened. "What video?" I stepped back just enough for him to see the security camera blinking above the door. His face went white, bone white, lips trembling, hands twitching. "You recorded it?" he whispered, horrified. I folded my arms. "My camera recorded everything." Silence. Heavy, cold, suffocating. Then he whispered something that made my blood run cold. "You don't understand. If that video gets out, it's not just me who goes down." I narrowed my eyes. "What are you talking about?" Mark's breathing sped up, panic crawling across his face. "The HOA, the fines, the rules, the harassment. It wasn't just me." He swallowed hard. "It was the president, the treasurer, the whole damn board." I stared at him. And they're not going to let you expose them." His voice cracked. "You're in danger. Your whole family is." A chill rolled down my spine. This wasn't guilt. This was fear. Fear of something bigger, darker, and more dangerous than him. I leaned forward. "What did the HOA do, Mark?" He looked around nervously, then whispered, "They're watching you." For a moment, I didn't speak. Not because I didn't have words, but because I had too many. Mark, the man who had just hurt my daughter, was now standing on my porch at night, trembling, sweating, and looking over his shoulder like a hunted animal. And then he whispered those words again, barely audible. "They're watching you." I stepped outside and shut the door behind me, keeping my voice low. "What do you mean they're watching me? Who?" He swallowed, wiping his forehead with a shaky hand. "The HOA board. The president especially. He has files on every resident. Cameras installed without approval. Hidden audio devices in the community office. He tracks people. My jaw tightened. That's illegal. I know it's illegal, he hissed, but I can't stop him. I tried, God, I tried. But he said if I ever talked, he'd release videos, texts, things I sent years ago when I was stupid. Blackmail. Classic tyrant behavior. What does this have to do with hurting my daughter? I asked sharply. He flinched. I swear, that part wasn't planned. I was supposed to deliver a warning. Just a warning. His eyes darted away. But when she didn't listen, I panicked. By ripping off her prosthetic leg, I growled. He squeezed his eyes shut. I'm not proud of what I did. I'm ashamed. But you don't get it, Daniel. The HOA president is not afraid of you being police chief. He thinks he's untouchable. I raised an eyebrow. And why would he think that? Mark leaned closer, voice dropping even lower. Because he has someone inside the mayor's office. Someone feeding him intel. Someone protecting him. He knows every move the police make in this neighborhood. That hit me hard. I felt the weight of that information settle in my chest like cold lead. The mayor's office, the police routes, arrest warrants, community surveillance. Someone was leaking everything. Who is the mole? I demanded. Mark shook his head violently. I don't know. I swear I don't. But his breathing quickened. They're afraid of you now. Ever since you showed your badge earlier, the board's group chat has been going crazy. How do you know that? He pulled his phone out and turned the screen toward me. I saw a flood of messages from a chat labeled HOA Core Committee, and the messages sent minutes ago. President, he's the police chief. We need to act first. Treasurer, what about the girl? President, collateral damage. Secretary, we can't risk exposure. President, prepare for inspection tomorrow. President, if he doesn't comply, we escalate. Escalate. The word echoed in my mind like a warning from hell. I clenched my jaw until it hurt. What exactly do they plan to escalate? Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. They want to target your house. I froze. My house? He nodded rapidly. They'll claim code, violations, unsafe fixtures, unauthorized structural modifications, anything to legally force you out. And if you resist... He swallowed. They've done worse to others. The anger that flared inside me wasn't just anger. It was fire. It was lava. It was a father's fury mixed with a chief's authority. And you helped them do this? I asked, staring into him. Mark's shoulders slumped. Yes, I did. He wiped his face again. I followed orders because I was scared. Because I didn't want my life ruined. But after today, he looked toward my door, where Lily slept inside. What I did to your daughter, his voice cracked. I can't live with that. I want to make this right. For the first time, I saw something real in him. Remorse. Genuine and painful. But remorse wasn't enough. You're going to tell me everything, I said firmly. Every rule. Every scam. Every threat. Every illegal act. He nodded quickly. Yes, I will. I'll give you files, proof, recordings. But his eyes darted around nervously. I can't talk here. If the president sees us... Right then, my porch camera's red light blinked twice. Motion detected. Someone was across the street. Watching. A shadow. Tall. Still. Half hidden behind a neighbor's SUV. Inside, I whispered. Mark and I stepped in quickly. I locked the door behind us. Emily looked up from the couch, confused and startled. What is he doing here? She demanded. He has information, I said, scanning the window. Mark kept his eyes down. Emily looked furious, but stayed quiet because Lily was sleeping. Sit, I ordered him. He sat stiffly at the edge of the chair, like he expected handcuffs any second. I leaned forward. Start talking. He inhaled shakily. About a year ago, the HOA president, his name is Charles Whitman, started implementing new rules. Fines doubled, then tripled. People who complained got targeted. If someone resisted, the HOA claimed their house had safety hazards. Emily frowned. That happened to the Hendersons down the street? Yes, Mark said quickly. And the Clarks. and the older couple on Elm Street, and the single mom who rented the corner house. I clench my fists. I remember all those cases. They weren't accidents, Mark whispered. The president used HOA power to force people out. Then he'd buy those houses cheap and flip them for profit. A property flipping scheme, disguised as neighborhood enforcement. My blood ran cold. That's fraud, I said, and extortion, and abuse of authority. Mark nodded shakily. I know. And if the board finds out I told you this, he trembled, they'll destroy me. But he wasn't finished. Chief, there's more. His eyes filled with terror. The president isn't just greedy. He's paranoid. He records every meeting, every phone call. He even planted a listening device in his own wife's car. He has files, real files, on nearly everyone in this neighborhood. Emily's face drained of color. This man is insane. Mark nodded again. And now that you're involved, he swallowed. He'll come after your family. The house suddenly felt smaller, quieter, dangerously still. I took a deep breath. Mark, I'm putting together a case. You're going to give me evidence. And in return, I'll protect you. He looked at me as if he couldn't believe what he heard. You'd protect me? After what I did to Lily? You're guilty, I said firmly. But the board is worse. And if you help me stop them, you're not the enemy anymore. Before he could respond, bang, a loud blast hit our front window, not breaking it, but rattling it violently. Emily screamed. Mark's face turned ghost white. I grabbed my gun. Instantly. Outside, a car sped away. Headlights off. They know I'm here, Mark whispered. They're warning you. I stared at the fading taillights. No, I said coldly. That wasn't a warning. I looked back at him, my voice dropping to steel. That was a declaration of war. The moment the window rattled, the entire house shifted into a different kind of silence. A silence that carried fear, tension, and the unmistakable promise of danger. Emily rushed to Lily, instinctively shielding her even though she was still asleep. Mark stood frozen, staring at the window like he expected bullets next. I holstered my gun slowly, keeping my eyes fixed on the driveway. That wasn't random, I said, my voice low. That car came here with a purpose. Mark nodded shakily. That's how they warn people. They hit the house from the outside, just enough to scare you, just enough to let you know you're being watched. And they think that's going to scare me? I muttered. Emily turned to me sharply. Daniel, don't pretend this isn't serious. They just threatened our home. I took a breath and nodded. You're right. This is serious. Which is why we're not sitting here, doing nothing. I pulled my phone out and texted Detective Harris. Possible threat. Send silent unit to perimeter. No lights, no sirens. His response came instantly. On it. Mark swallowed. What are you planning to do? I turned to him slowly. I'm going to end this legally, strategically, and permanently. He blinked fast, panic creeping into his expression. You can't take the HOA down alone, he whispered. The president, he's connected. Influential. People obey him. He knows things about everyone. I stepped closer. He doesn't know anything about me. That wasn't arrogance. That was a fact. I never lived my life in a way that left blackmail material behind. And more importantly, I said, I don't scare easily. Mark sat down heavily, running both hands through his hair. You don't understand, he looked at the floor. He's watching you right now. I paused. What? He pointed at the wall. There's probably a signal jammer or hidden listening device in your front yard, maybe even inside your house. He plants them inside electrical boxes, garden lights, fake rocks. Emily gasped. Are you saying there might be something here? Right now. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped onto the porch, scanning the perimeter carefully. That's when I saw it. A small, dark object tucked behind the mailbox. Barely visible. I crouched, lifted it, and felt my stomach tighten. A covert audio transmitter. Military grade. Tiny. Strong signal. Someone had been listening. I walked back inside and tossed the device on the table. Emily stared at it in disbelief. Mark flinched like it was a snake. He planted that here? Emily whispered. Yes, I said, and probably more. He wants information. He wants leverage. Mark lifted his hands. He probably got worried after your badge showed up. He needs to know what you're planning. I leaned forward. Well, guess what? He won't hear anything now. I smashed the device under my boot. Mark winced. Emily took a slow breath. I walked to the window, peering at the street. The SUV that had been parked earlier was gone, but the tension in the air remained. I turned to Mark. You said you want to help me. Now's your chance. What do you need? He whispered. Proof, I said. Everything. Documents, screenshots, audio recordings, transaction logs. Anything that connects the president to corruption. Mark nodded nervously. I have some, but the real files are in the HOA community office. Locked drawer. Back room. Only the president has the code. And we're going to get it, I said. Mark's eyes widened. No, you can't break in. That building has surveillance. He'll know. Who said anything about breaking in? I smirked. I said we're going to get inside. Emily frowned. Daniel, you can't go there tonight. It's dangerous. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. The more time we wait, the more time he has to cover his tracks. Mark swallowed. There's one way inside without being seen. Emily's eyes narrowed. What way? Mark hesitated, fear flashing across his face. There's a maintenance door at the back of the HOA office. No cameras, no alarms, but the president uses it to sneak in at night. Why? I asked. To review files, to spy, to access the neighborhood feeds. Neighborhood feeds. My stomach turned. You mean he monitors security cameras? Mark nodded slowly. All of them, even ones inside people's private homes, smart cameras, Wi-Fi connected doorbells. He hacks everything. Emily clapped a hand over her mouth. Oh my God. I looked at Mark sharply. Does he have access to my home cameras? Mark hesitated, then nodded. Yes, since last year. He monitors all police-owned homes in the neighborhood. He's paranoid about getting arrested. Emily trembled. And Lily's room? No, Mark said quickly. Only external cameras. Living room. Hallway. Front and back. Bedroom cameras, only if families install them voluntarily. Relief washed over me. Small, but something. I took a breath. We're going to the HOA office. Emily stepped forward instantly. Daniel, I know. I held her shoulders gently. Emily, I have to do this. Not just for Lily, but for everyone he's hurt. For every family he's terrorized. Her eyes welled up. What if he comes here while you're gone? There's a silent patrol on the block, I said. They'll watch the house. She nodded reluctantly, but there was fear in her eyes I couldn't ignore. Come back safely, she whispered. I kissed her forehead. I will. As I headed toward the door, Mark stood shakily. I'm coming with you. I paused. Are you sure? His voice cracked. If I run now, I'll be running forever. I want to make this right. I nodded once. Let's go. We stepped out into the cold night air. The street was quiet. Too quiet. A distant dog barked. A security light flickered. A breeze rustled through the hedges. The HOA office was only a 5-minute walk away. As we approached, Mark whispered, If the president is awake, he'll be watching the security feed right now. I smirked. Well, he's about to see something he didn't expect. We reached the back entrance. A plain metal door. No keypad, just a mechanical lock. Open it, I said. Mark inserted a key, but before he could turn it, a voice behind us said, Going somewhere? We spun around, and standing in the shadows was the HOA president himself, tall, broad-shouldered, cold eyes, and a grin that belonged to a man who believed no one could ever touch him. He stepped forward. I was wondering when the police chief would make his move. The air thickened with danger. The HOA president didn't walk toward us. He glided, slow, controlled steps, like a man who believed he owned the ground beneath our feet. The dim streetlight washed over him, revealing the smug, cold smile that made my fists clench. Chief Brooks, he said, his voice smooth and poisonous. I was hoping we'd meet under better circumstances. Beside me, Mark stiffened, his breath turning shallow. The president glanced at him with thinly veiled disgust. Mark, I see your spine, finally degraded enough to crawl out of line. Mark swallowed hard. Charles, please just stop. This has gone too far. But Charles Whitman, HOA president, neighborhood tyrant, and apparently mastermind behind a network of surveillance, only chuckled. Too far? Oh, Mark, this is only the beginning. I stepped forward, my tone sharp. You're standing in front of the police chief, at nearly midnight behind a locked HOA office. That alone screams guilt. He raised an eyebrow. And yet, I don't feel very guilty. His smile grew sharper. You see, Chief, laws are wonderful things when you write them yourself. HOA regulations aren't above federal or state law. I said, oh, but influence is, he replied casually. Then he tapped his earbud, barely noticeable until now, and said quietly, is the feed live? A voice crackled back, live and clear. He was broadcasting this. Every word, every expression, every movement. He wanted witnesses. He wanted an audience. He turned to me, smirking. You're not the only one with people watching. Mark whispered shakily, he's bluffing. Please tell me he's bluffing. But I saw it in Charles's eyes. He wasn't bluffing. He leaned forward slightly. So, Chief, how's Lily? Leg broken? Painful, I imagine. A wave of cold fury washed through me. Not hot rage, but something darker, colder, more controlled. Careful, I warned, my voice like steel. He grinned wider. There it is. The father. The anger. I've seen that look on many parents' faces. He stepped even closer, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret. I've broken more families than you can count. Mark gasped softly. Emily's earlier fear echoed in my mind. Lily's sobs, the shattered prosthetic leg on the porch. I fought the urge to snap his neck. I know what you're doing, I said quietly. You're trying to provoke me. Oh no, he whispered back. I'm testing you. He turned suddenly and tapped the HOA office door with 2 fingers. This door right here? Behind it lies 20 years of operations. Documents, photos, videos, audio, records of every misstep, every weakness, every sin committed by your neighbors. He looked back at me. People don't like to follow rules, Chief, unless you give them a reason. You mean fear, I said. I mean leverage. He tilted his head mockingly. Do you have any idea how easy it is to control a community when you know their secrets? Mark's voice shook. I told you, Chief, he tracks everyone. I do, Charles confirmed proudly. And I won't apologize for maintaining order. Order? I scoffed. You extorted families. You forced people out of their homes. You destroyed lives. He nodded thoughtfully. Yes, and they stayed quiet, because they were smart enough to fear me. Then he pointed a finger at my chest. But you're stupidly brave. Brave enough to end you, I said. He laughed, a soft, amused, unsettling laugh. You think you can end me? I have people in city offices, county departments, even your precinct. You're a police chief, yes, but you're just one man. And you, I said, stepping closer, are a criminal. Charles smiled faintly. Prove it. I already have, I said, pulling out my phone. Your little transmitter? Found it. Destroyed it. Sent forensics to sweep my house. They'll find all your illegal plantings. His expression tightened. Not fear, but irritation. Invasive, he muttered. And your group chat messages? I added. Screenshotted. Mark flinched. Charles stepped closer, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. You shouldn't underestimate how quickly evidence can disappear. That might scare others, I said, but it doesn't scare me. We were inches apart now, 2 men locked in a silent war of willpower. Then he switched tactics. His voice lowered. His tone softened. You have a daughter, Chief, a disabled one. That must be exhausting. I felt something snap inside me, a quiet breaking, not loud. Don't, I warned. He continued anyway. Children like her, fragile, slow, easily harmed, and so very dependent on their parents. Would be tragic if someone... I didn't let him finish. My hand shot up and grabbed the collar of his shirt, slamming him against the wall of the HOA office. He didn't flinch. In fact, he smiled. "There he is," he whispered. "The chief, the real you. Violent, reckless, just the footage I needed." He tilted his head toward the street. A small black SUV sat parked with tinted windows, recording us. Catching me with my hand against him, he had planned this entire encounter. I stepped back slowly. "You want me angry," I said. "You want an emotional reaction you can weaponize." He brushed off his collar smugly. "I always get what I want." Mark suddenly found his voice. "Charles, stop this. Please. This is insane." But Charles wasn't listening anymore. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded paper, and held it toward me. "A notice," he said casually. "For you." I took it, confused but alert. When I unfolded it, my blood froze. HOA Emergency Inspection Notice 24-hour eviction protocol, safety hazard. Effective immediately. "You're evicting me?" I said slowly. "No," he said with a grin. "The community is evicting you." "You forged this," I said. "No," he replied. "I rewrote the bylaws last month. It's all legal. Or will be by morning." He tapped my chest with the paper. "You have until tomorrow to vacate your home, or I'll send enforcement." "You mean you're hired thugs?" I hissed. "Volunteers," he corrected. I folded the paper slowly. "Let me be very clear," I said in a low voice. "You threatened my daughter. You broke the law. You stalked families. And you used the HOA to run a criminal operation." He smiled wider. "And you assaulted the HOA president on camera." "You provoked me," I snapped. "The footage won't help you." "Oh," he said softly. "It won't help me with the police, but it will help me with the public." He leaned in, whispering, "You're finished." I stared him dead in the eyes. "No, you are." He smirked. "Prove it." His SUV lights flashed twice, a signal. He stepped backward, merging with the darkness. "You have one night left, Chief," he said. "One night to decide whether you protect your job or your daughter." He walked away as Mark's trembling whisper broke. "Chief, this man will destroy everything if we don't act now." I nodded slowly. "We'll act." But inside, I knew the next 24 hours would decide everything. The night felt heavier than usual, the kind of darkness that whispered warnings. The HOA president's threat replayed in my head like a looping recording. "You have one night left. Chief, choose between your job or your daughter." A threat against Lily wasn't a threat. It was war. I turned to Mark. "Listen carefully," I said quietly. "Tonight, we don't play defense. We take this man down." Mark nodded, still shaking but resolute. "I'll help you," he whispered. "Just tell me what to do." "We gather everything," I said. "Every file, every recording, every fraudulent transaction, every illegal fine he issued." Mark's eyes widened. "I know where some of those documents are, hidden in a cabinet behind the HOA office printer." "We're getting them," I said, but this time we weren't sneaking in. We were going with a plan. I called Detective Harris. "Chief," he answered instantly. "I need a forensic tech team at the HOA office. Quiet. No sirens." There was a pause. "Understood. What's going on?" "We're dismantling a criminal operation." Finally, he muttered. Within 10 minutes, 2 unmarked vehicles pulled up, headlights off. 3 officers stepped out, Harris included, each wearing civilian jackets to avoid suspicion. Harris approached me. "You look like a man ready to break someone." "I'm past ready," I said. He nodded once. "Point us." We moved. The entry mark led us to the maintenance door. He unlocked it with trembling hands. I held his wrist gently. "You're doing the right thing." For the first time, he looked almost relieved. Inside, the HOA office was cold, dim, and eerily silent. The faint hum of machines vibrated through the floor. Harris whispered, "Cameras are already looped. We're clear." We slipped into the back room. Mark pointed at a large, gray filing cabinet. "That's it." The cabinet was locked, but Harris picked it open in less than a minute. Inside, my breath caught. Stacks of files. Black binders labeled with residents' names. Photos. Email printouts. Financial statements. Bank transfer records. A ledger filled with fines, all inflated or fabricated. And then there were the videos. HD recordings. Front doors. Driveways. Living rooms. Private conversations. "Oh my God," Harris whispered. "This is psychotic." Mark's voice cracked. He recorded everyone so he could control them, ruin them if needed. I clenched my jaw. He used fear as currency. Harris opened a drawer and froze. "Chief, you need to see this." Inside were medical records, not of residents, of Lily, her surgeries, her prosthetic specifications, her hospital visits, photos of her walking, photos of her struggling. Emily had never shared those. Neither had I. My blood ran cold. "How?" I whispered. Mark swallowed hard. "He hacked into your insurance portal. And he watched your home cameras. He said disabled kids make neighborhoods look weak. I didn't let him finish. Rage thundered through me. "That's it," I said. "This man doesn't get arrested. He gets exposed." Harris nodded firmly. "Agreed." We seized everything, box after box of files, each one a nail in the coffin of the HOA president's empire. And then, the secret room. Mark hesitated before revealing it. "There's one more thing," he whispered. "A room he uses for meetings, off the record. No cameras." He led us to a wooden wall panel behind a bookshelf. He pressed on it. A click echoed. The panel slid open. Inside was a small soundproof room. A table. A chair. A laptop. And on the wall, a massive corkboard covered with Polaroid photos, names, arrows, notes, threats, schedules, secret finds, hacked screenshots. At the center, circled in red, Police Chief Brooks, threat level, extreme. Something inside me went still. Not fear. Not shock. Purpose. A single, sharp purpose. "This ends tonight," I said. "The showdown." We packed evidence into police boxes and loaded them into the trucks. As we stepped outside, a voice echoed from the shadows. Well, breaking and entering? On camera? Impressive, Chief." I turned. The HOA president stood across the parking lot. His SUV idled behind him. His expression was twisted with triumph. "I knew you'd try something desperate," he sneered. "You're done," I said. He laughed. "No, you're done. You think a few files will bury me? I own this neighborhood." Harris stepped forward. "Oh yeah," he said. "Then, how come you've been broadcasting illegal surveillance to your team?" Charles froze. Harris raised a tiny receiver. We intercepted everything. Shock flickered in Charles's eyes. I stepped closer. "You made one mistake," I said. "And what's that?" he spat. "You underestimated a father." His jaw tightened. "You think exposing me will fix your daughter's leg?" he hissed. "You think it will stop the committee? I have backups, allies, judges, the mayors." Sirens suddenly echoed in the distance, not loud but controlled. Charles spun around. Multiple unmarked police cars rolled in, forming a tightening circle. Harris smiled faintly. "Your allies aren't coming." Charles started backing up toward his SUV. "You can't arrest me. HOA bylaws protect." "You're not being arrested under HOA law," I said coldly. "You're being arrested under federal law." Charles paled. "For what?" I stepped forward. "For extortion, fraud, illegal surveillance, blackmail, property destruction, conspiracy, and child endangerment." He backed up another step. "You have no proof." I threw a box at his feet. "Every single thing you stole," I said, "and every crime you committed." He panicked and lunged toward his SUV. But Harris's team tackled him instantly. He screamed, fought, begged, but it didn't matter. His empire was over. They cuffed him. "For the record," Harris said, reading rights, "you have the right to remain silent. Use it, please." Charles glared at me, hatred burning. "This isn't over," he growled. I leaned in, my voice quiet but deadly. "For you, it is." They hauled him into the car. The aftermath. Back home, Emily burst into tears of relief when she saw me. I held her tight. "It's over," I whispered. She hugged me harder. "What happens now?" "He goes to trial. The HOA gets restructured, and Lily, she gets justice. We tucked Lily into bed, gently. She was safe. For the first time in days, I felt peace. Real peace. Mark approached hesitantly. "Chief, thank you for not giving up on me." "You did the right thing," I said, "and that matters." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "You saved this neighborhood." "No," I corrected softly. "I saved my daughter." And that was all that mattered. Before I end this story, I want to speak directly to you, the person watching. If you've stayed with me all the way till now, it means one thing: you care about justice, you care about families, and you care about what's right. So now I want to ask you, what would you have done if this happened to your child? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're watching this from anywhere across the USA or around the world, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, because every week I bring you real, raw, emotional stories that expose injustice, celebrate courage, and remind us that even ordinary people can fight back. Your support helps this channel grow, and it helps me keep telling stories like this, stories that matter. So, before you scroll, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications. Because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching, and stay safe, stay strong, and always stand up for your family.